Deep within an ancient wood of lofty silver fir, I found a grave. Time had weathered away the name, but there in the shallow recesses grew the striking violet lichen. There is a cure, a terrible cure, one that rattles and twists your bones, the old woman said. You need only find the lichen that seeks the dead. And so I did. I scraped it from the somber stone and stored it in my pouch, eager to return to my bedridden sister in the hut of that old hag. The pox had claimed her skin. For weeks I watched as she writhed in agony, begging for reprieve, but nothing I dared give her would suffice. Take me to the witch, she said one night through pain-induced delirium. The witch of the wood knows the way, the worldling way of old. Like all children, I knew the tale. I knew to stay out of that wood. But as I looked at the crumpled form of my kin, her eyes pale and hair black with sweat, I found no strength to deny her. Woven from twisted branches and covered in moss, the old woman's hut lay in a small forest clearing where the fog saw fit to settle. Not a bird sang there. The only sound was the cracking of a meager fire and the humming of the old woman who stoked it. Did you bring it, child? The old woman said. I think so, I replied. And the gold? You'll get the gold when she's better. It was a lie, of course. We did not have 2 pennies to rub together, much less her well-known fee. Stooped over the fire, she held back a knobbled hand. Quick, the lichen. It must boil for an hour, and the girl has little time. In the corner, my sister slept, her breath ragged and slow. Does it truly work? I asked, handing over the precious plant. If you are strong enough. And if you are not? The old woman turned. Her face was wrinkled and dirt had long settled into the creases. Gone was any remnant of beauty, except for her eyes, like sapphires in starlight. As I said, it's a terrible cure. I waited at the foot of the bed as the woman prepared the draught, dabbing a damp cloth on my sister's brow. Stay with me, I prayed. She had been so full of life, which is the type of thing that is always said, but it was true. She loved climbing a twisted pine or dipping her toes in the ember flow while I swam. Never have I known someone so kind, and even though she detested spiders on the principle of having far too many legs, she would cup them with her hands and shoo them outside. I don't think she would approve of this cure. There's magic in spider legs, my child, the woman said as she reached for a shelf. Magic and chaos both. Nestled deep in the shelf was a glass jar containing the biggest spider I had ever seen. It was a shiny black all over, except for the pale blue dot on its belly. Have you ever watched how they walk, how their spindly limbs snap to and fro, never moving, just appearing in a new position? Only evil things move like that. And make no mistake, child, this pox is evil too. But what is one malady to another? And with that, she opened the jar and yanked off a leg. Sent into a frenzy, the poor creature jolted and scrambled helplessly among the glass walls of its prison. And what does the lichen do? I asked. Is it evil as well? The old woman dropped the spider leg into the bubbling cup she held. No, not evil, she said as she approached the bed. The pox seems to corrupt all life, and what is more alive than a plant that blooms in death? It needs only a passageway. She handed me the cup. Have her drink deep, child. She must drink it all. I lifted the foul-smelling concoction to my sister's lips. As soon as the first drops touched her tongue, her eyes shot open. She struggled, sputtering and gagging, but I ran my fingers through her hair to calm her. It will make you better, I said. You have to trust me. The more I poured, the more panic set into her features. By the final drops, she was fighting me off with all the feeble strength she had left, screaming my name, begging for me to stop. It hurts us, said a voice that was not hers. It was deep and guttural. You'll kill her, it shouted. You'll kill us both, fool! Every last drop, the old woman said, rushing to my side and tilting the cup more. Pay it no mind. Stop! We'll let her live, we swear, the voice begged. We swear on the Nameless One. The last drop fell onto her thrashing tongue. And then there was silence. I waited without breathing for a sign of life, anything, any hint or whisper of movement. But she did not stir. She was gone. I am sorry, my child. The old woman placed her shriveled hand on my trembling shoulder. She was too far gone. My eyes blurred with anger as bitter tears streamed down my cheeks. You said you'd save her. You said. I said it was a terrible cure, the witch said sternly. And now you must go. But first, my gold. She held out her other hand as fingers dug into my arm. Get off! I screamed, batting away her arm. I have no gold. I have nothing. Very well. From within her cloak, she drew a cruel-looking blade. There are other things you can give me. An eye, perhaps. Many things call for an eye. I backed to the wall. There was no way out. She stood between me and the doorway. Come now, child. I'll make it quick, she said as she stepped ever closer. Stay away from me, you witch, I pleaded. Don't touch me, please. Snap. The sound stopped us both. From the bed came a horrid noise, like branches breaking in a storm. Silhouetted by the orange glow of a dying fire, my sister arose. Long and emaciated were her many legs, and her head hung backward, 8 unblinking eyes with a violet glow. No, that's impossible. But that was all she got out before my sister lunged. In a ravenous frenzy, she devoured the witch, ripping sinewy flesh from bone and painting the humble hut red. Sarah? My sister paused her feeding at the sound of my timid voice. Her limbs shambled about like a newborn deer as she dragged her blood-soaked hair across the floor. And in that moment, as I looked over her pitiful, pox-covered flesh and into soulless eyes, I knew she was truly gone. I sprinted for the door, and as I tore through the woods, I could hear it give chase. It wailed like a mourning lover, and the pounding of its legs echoed through the trees as I reached the forest's edge. Plunging into the frigid waters of the ember flow, I swam towards home with all the strength I had left. I crawled up the bank, shivering and coughing. And when I looked back, it was watching, from the other side. It dipped a tentative leg in the water and quickly pulled it back. And then, with frightening speed, it ran off into the murky darkness of the woods. I never went back to that wood. I never went looking for her. But she's out there, that much is certain. Sometimes I hear her screams on the wind, though the doctor says it's all in my head. If you are ever in the woods and you hear many legs, make for the river. She never did learn to swim. I was in a group of 5 content creators who explored haunted and mysterious places. For the past few weeks, the Theater of Wooden Dolls has been circling around my social media, and it piqued our interest. The story said that there was a mansion-sized theater made entirely out of wood, located in the middle of the woods, consisting of only one room. That room was said to have a large stage full of wooden dolls seated as if they were an audience in a theater. The 5 of us went there on the weekend. The exact location of the theater couldn't be reached by car, so we had to walk for a few hours to get there. I looked at the map, along with a description of the signs marking where the theater should be. All signs were clear. It wasn't hard to find the way. The pathway to get there, however, wasn't easy. The second we reached the gate, we could see the name carved into it: Theater of Wooden Dolls. It occurred to us, why would someone build a mansion-sized theater out of wood in the middle of the woods, barely reachable? Some said it was merely the work of an eccentric artist. Some artists with money built house-sized art installations. I'd seen plenty of them, but they were built in the city. Art, in my understanding, is meant to be seen and hopefully appreciated. But building it in the middle of the uninhabited woods? Strange and creepy. The pathway from the gate to the theater wasn't short. We had to walk through a path without any light. The only light we did have came from our own flashlights. It was so dark we could barely see each other. Our primary way of knowing we were still together was the sound of our voices as we walked. "This place makes me feel like I want to run," Jess muttered. But his sentence ended in a weird way. It sounded like he was silenced before he could finish. "Jess? You there?" Eric called out. No response. "Jess?" Damon called again. No response. "Where the heck is Jess?" I muttered. "Maybe he walked past us. It's dark here, even with our flashlights," Damon responded. "He should have said something, right?" Clay added. We decided to keep walking and look for Jess once we reached the theater. A theater this huge, made entirely out of wood. Architecturally amazing, I mumbled as we arrived at the front door. We observed the cracked and ruined walls and floors of the theater as we entered. The ballroom was grand, with an extremely high ceiling. We could see countless wooden dolls seated like an audience. Some of the wooden dolls appeared naked, but about half of them wore clothes. Some outfits looked like they were from the 70s and 80s. Others looked more recent. "These dolls are creepy," Damon muttered from behind the line. "I agree with Jess. This place gives me the urge to run." Again, I heard a sentence end in a weird way. It sounded like Damon was silenced before he could finish. We looked back. Damon was gone. Clay, Eric, and I stared at each other. Eric suddenly walked toward one of the dolls. He observed the clothing it wore closely. "Did this doll wear this outfit from the beginning?" he asked. "What do you mean?" I asked back. When I got closer, I saw it clearly. A black t-shirt with a big Damon logo on it. Damon's fashion brand. It was Damon's t-shirt. "When I read about this place," Clay said, "some said there's a forbidden word to say. A spell that turns you into a wooden doll when you say it, but I didn't take it seriously." "What word?" Eric asked. "I wouldn't try to say it, but it seems like the only word Jess and Damon said before they disappeared." Eric lifted his eyes as if trying to remember. "Run?" Eric said. And poof, Eric vanished right before Clay's and my eyes. Seconds later, we saw another wooden doll appear in a spot that had been empty. The doll wore the same outfit Eric had been wearing. Clay and I stared at each other. We couldn't say the word, so... walk. "Evening, sir. You must be my new suitor." "How do you do?" "As you know, I guess I'll give you the shtick. Princess Fiorimonde. Very nice to make your acquaintance, sir." "And which kingdom do you hail from?" "I can't say I've ever been. But we have things imported from there. I like your kingdom's colors. Very fashionable." "This old thing?" "Yes, it's my favorite necklace. Simple, yes, for me. But, I don't know, I like it." "Since when does a princess need something with more than 3 beads?" "Really, it's my taste." "I see you're not one for accessories?" "Oh, that's too bad. I quite like accessories for men." Hmm? Nothing. "I trust it's lovely weather out?" "Based on how you're dressed." "Oh, I've not been outside for very long." "You know how it is. The air is far too frigid for my delicate skin. That's why I'm so covered up all the time. And hey, a girl loves her fashion. Though, to be honest, I've never been one to show much skin." "Yes, that is why I greeted you with gloves. I hope you are not offended." "Thank you." "So, anything interesting happening lately?" "As you know, I've been receiving many suitors, and I don't like going outside, so I haven't heard much. But there must be something going on somewhere." "Oh, a wedding today? Lovely. And what was she wearing?" "Oh, well, I must know. I love fashion." "How old did you say she was?" "Oh, the poor dear. Well, it's none of my business, I suppose." After all, women should be seen and not heard, so I guess it doesn't matter at all what I say or what she thinks. On the contrary, I very well enjoy keeping to myself. Thank you. Anything else? Missing? How many? Huh. That's odd. And they don't know where these young gentlemen went. They just disappeared? Oh, no. I asked you. No, it's quite all right. I just wanted to know the going-ons of the outside world. That's all. You haven't dampened the mood at all. It's a little sad from being in here. I'm afraid I can't quite relate too well. I hope you don't think ill of me. Thank you. Perhaps there's a happier story out there. My, oh my. That's an extraordinary tale. And he just climbed on back down and became wealthy? How extraordinary. Perhaps I can ask my father to have an audience with him. No need to look so worried. It was only a jest. I just wanted to see if you, were truly taking a liking to me. Thank you. Oh, I'm afraid that our courtship candle has burned out completely. But it truly was lovely speaking to you. Will you come back? Next week? Oh, I should be receiving more suitors before then, but I'll wait for you. Thank you. All right. I'll see you next week. Fare thee well. You're back. Please do come sit. Is it cold outside? The cloak. Ooh, it must be lovely. I think I would really like cold weather. And I mean, I can feel some of it, but pretty much kept toasty in here. Yes, do you like it? Do you like my gloves this time? My gown? My jewels? Well, yes, it's my favorite accessory. I love my necklace. I keep it on always. I only take it off with my gloves, and I always wear my gloves. No, it's always looked the way it has. Why do you ask? Leave it to a man to forget what a woman's accessories look like. You know, if you're able to notice a bead and all of its attributes despite its size, you may very well carry the heart of its wearer. Tell me, are there any new stories from the town? Oh, that couple. Still married. Lovely. Hopefully with better fashion sense, but again, doesn't matter what I think. More men have gone missing? Are authorities not aware of this? how many is it now? Well, how bizarre. Well, thank the Lord it's not you who have gone missing. I would be quite beside myself. You're not scared? If I were you, I would be. Well, sure you're big and strong, but sometimes it's not enough. Just promise me you'll be safe, all right? I rather enjoy our visits. Thank you. Tell me, what of the boy who came from the clouds? Oh. Well, that is fantastic news. I'm glad he and his mother have been doing well. It's so good to hear such stories. I've been doing fine. Just admiring the rain. I received a few more suitors, but they were quite unsavory. I never saw them again, thank goodness. I should think. Are you quite taking a liking to me? Good. Thank you. And don't we have the greatest timing? It seems our courtship candle has again burned out. Will you come again next week? Or sooner? Next week, right? It'll almost have been a month since I've been receiving suitors, so I'll try to hold them off more. But if you are fancying me, sir, you must talk to my father, because I admit I have taken a great liking to you. Thank you. All right. Safe travels. Come back soon. Fare thee well. Darling, welcome back. You look wonderful. You look well. Thank you. Oh. You've noticed my ensemble? Yes, I'm quite proud of this outfit. The maids disagreed, but I made them dress me this way. I think it works, don't you? Thank you. Now again, I must know about the goings-on in the town. What about the couple and the missing persons and the young man? Divorced? Well, I certainly did not see that coming. Do you know why? No? What a shame. And there's more missing men? Oh, at this point, I'm starting to believe it is a wolf or a monster of sorts. Oh, I shudder at the thought. And the young man? A what? You're saying... Oh, the repairs must be dismal. I can't even begin to imagine. Well, is all well with you? You have. Pardon. I'm afraid I am confused on exactly what it is you are referencing. I believed you to be speaking about the past. When you say that you've been ruminating over things I've said in the past, I assume you've been considering asking for my father's permission to marry me, but the tone you said it in suggests it is something else. The missing young men, yes. Are you quite all right? Has something happened? Has someone threatened you? No? What? They seem to have been men who have come to see me. Oh, this is quite strange. And what am I to believe that you are suggesting? I'm afraid that any sort of correlation that you could be making is quite outlandish. As you've said, you seemingly have nothing to worry about, being as big and strong as you are. And if you've seen me, you'll know that I'm quite petite, quite frail. I don't go outside. In fact, I don't even like moving a lot. I just like my dresses and I just like my accessories. So how would someone like me be able to do something bad to those like you? My necklace. You are rather fascinated with my necklace, aren't you? And what of it? No, it has had the exact same amount of beads as it did the first time you met me, don't you remember? No less than 3. That's what a princess wears. Of course. No, I forgive you. In times like these, it is quite a normal reaction to question everything in your world, wondering if you could somehow be at the center of it. I understand. I don't blame you. I am so glad you came to visit me today. Good sir, I think I've quite fallen for you. Thoroughly, I may add. I should very much like if you asked my father about me. But before you go, why don't I prove that I love you? Why don't you come over here and take my necklace as a trinket of my love? When I go to sleep, sometimes I can visit the dream factory. At first, I really liked it. I had never experienced lucid dreaming, but being in the town of the dream factory felt so real, and I was in total control of myself, so I assumed it to be just that. A very lucid dream. It is a stunning place, really. I grew up in the southern Spanish coast in a small town right by the beach. But due to work and the general economy in Spain not being very prosperous at the time, I left my sunny home country for a cold and depressing German metropolis. Don't get me wrong, I like it here. It took me a long time, but I learned the language, I get along well with the people here, and my job pays a lot better than anything I could have hoped to earn back home. I originally assumed that these dreams were caused by the yearning I felt for sunny beaches, since the recurring dream is set in a coastal town with a very Mediterranean flair. The houses are all white, with colorful window shutters and doors. They are arranged in a stair-like fashion and have big balconies. On the main street, small, touristy shops and restaurants that emit seductive scents are surrounded by tall palm trees, and you can hear small parrots chirping. The setting was so peaceful and cured my Heimweh, my homesickness, to a large degree. I never expected I would come to fear this place so much. Of course, the thing that catches your eye immediately and sticks out like a sore thumb is the factory. The Dream Factory. That's what people here call it. A massive building sitting partially on the beach, with large tubes going straight into the ocean, and an almost ridiculously tall and thin chimney on top of it. It looks to be made of metal and concrete, and it is covered in either windows or huge lamps in bright colors. Neon blue and bright pink, intense turquoise and blaring red. My first impression was that it looked a bit like a child's idea of an alien spacecraft or something from a cheesy sci-fi movie. I didn't know what the factory did the first few times I was in the Dream City. I would periodically get these dreams and used to feel extremely lucky every time I did, the once or twice every month. And at first, all I did was explore the city. I'd talk to the residents of the place and enjoy the warm sand under my feet. I even have my own place there. I just knew where my residence was, like how you sometimes know things in dreams without an explanation. I guess, had I been less distracted by the warm feelings of this beautiful wonderland, I would have noticed the red flags sooner. The people here seemed tense and nervous. Their smiles too big, their friendliness not authentic. When asking someone about the factory, they would exclaim how amazing it is and how grateful they are for it. It drives up tourism, good for business, they said, their toothy grins never reaching their eyes. But what does it do? It makes dreams. But this is a dream already. It really is, isn't it? Unsatisfying answers. Then, I found out for myself. I had been having these intense dreams for close to a year until I experienced it. Usually when I came to the Dream City, it was a bright and sunny day. Not this time. It was evening. The sun was setting, painting the sky in stunning purple and pink hues. I was on the main street and all the shops and restaurants were closed. I couldn't see a single person. That is when I noticed that the balconies, reminiscent of the ancient Colosseum in a way, were full of people. They huddled together, looking out in what I assumed to be anticipation. I joined them. I entered my house and went onto my balcony. The balconies to my left and right occupied my somniac neighbors. I heard hushed whispers and a lot of shushing. The siren startled me so much I almost let out a scream. A high-pitched, unpleasant noise that lasted for far too long and made my eardrums hurt. Pain felt so real here. And then the spectacle began. Clouds began to escape the chimney of the Dream Factory. Strange, almost gummy-looking clouds. They started out as white, but then they shifted color. The first ones turned bright yellow, and then they began to quiver. They started vibrating as they descended slowly due to their weight. I focused on one cloud in particular. It began to take shape. I recognized the shape of a rubber duck after a while. The cloud had turned into what looked like a pool floaty or maybe a balloon. I was mesmerized, and suddenly I was a child again. The clouds kept coming and took on all sorts of shapes. Cute animals, all with a rubbery texture, slowly floated from the sky down onto the ground. They seemed to be bouncy. After what felt like hours, the entire ground was covered in colorful ducks, crocodiles, unicorns, and many more adorable creatures. Next to the buildings and on the street, you could tell they were huge. I looked at the people around me with glee, but they didn't share my joyful expressions. They stared at the animals on the ground with an off-putting intensity. Some seemed to hold their breath, and in their eyes, I saw unmistakable fear. What was I missing? I couldn't tell back then. The sirens sounded again, and everyone suddenly exploded into a roaring applause. I looked around, and people were hugging each other, chatting excitedly. Every hint of the unpleasant atmosphere they emitted only seconds ago was wiped off completely. Things were good again. That's how it went for a while. I kept having the dreams every now and again, but it was never evening again. I didn't witness the spectacle of the factory for a long time. I regret telling her so much. In real life, I had a close friend, Irene, a wonderful woman. She was kind and open-minded, and I could talk with her about anything. She was my actual next-door neighbor in the apartment complex I lived in, and that's how we met. One day, I decided to tell her about my dreams, thinking she would laugh or maybe not even believe me. But she listened intently and eagerly and told me how lucky I was to be able to experience this so often. How it was like a mini vacation and how jealous she was of me. That she never dreamed anything remarkable. The next time I dreamt of the beach town, she was there. She couldn't believe it, and neither could I. We sat down at a beautiful cafe and ate delicious food, talking for hours. I woke up to a banging on my door, and when I groggily opened it, there was Irene. She sputtered out words I could hardly make out in my dazed state, and it took me a while to comprehend what she was saying. She had actually been there. She could recite the conversation we had had and told me about how delicious the food had been. That it hadn't felt like a dream, but real. She could still remember the taste of the dish she had eaten. I think some sort of fried mackerel. It was very difficult to come to terms with. She seemed over the moon, but this revelation scared me a little bit. I wasn't particularly religious or spiritual, and I didn't believe in paranormal events or magic. So how was this possible? I remember coming up with ridiculous ideas in my mind to rationalize what had happened. I came to the unsatisfying conclusion that we must have had extremely similar dreams by pure chance, and she was inspired by the stories I had told her. Something felt wrong, and I made up an excuse to get her out of my house because I needed to think. Dread began to take over, and I couldn't help but think of the townspeople. How scared they were of the factory. I wouldn't have thought of putting this out on the internet, though, if it wasn't for what happened next. Something very unexpected. The same night, the night after my encounter with Irene, I dreamt of it again. And the sky was purple. As I made my way to my home in a rush, I again encountered Irene. She was upbeat but confused and told me she too had just gotten there and if I knew what was going on. I wordlessly grabbed her wrist and dragged her with me to my apartment. I knew something bad was going to happen. I knew the alarm would sound soon, and I had the feeling that if we weren't on the balcony while it happened, that things would take a bad turn. The same thing happened as before. The alarm sounded and the clouds began emerging and soon taking shape. Irene was cooing over the event, but I, admittedly in a rude manner, told her to be quiet. She hesitated but obeyed. The clouds were flowing out of the chimney, something about them so threatening in spite of their innocent designs. It didn't go like last time, though. The clouds didn't float to the ground. The wind carried them towards the balconies, and I knew this wasn't good. This was wrong and bad, but I didn't dare move a muscle or make a peep. My eyes caught onto a floating rubber ducky as it was coming straight at us. My grip around Irene's wrist got tighter, and it must have hurt, but she didn't say anything. Her eyes fixated on the menacingly floating entity that was rapidly approaching us. There was nothing I could do as I watched the yellow rubber come closer and closer, and when it crashed into my friend with a surprisingly strong force, I shut my eyes as hard as I could. I shouldn't have let go of her, but I felt the need to hug my own body tightly, to let me know I was safe, even when I knew the opposite had to be true. The screaming began. The floats hadn't just crashed into our balcony. I opened my eyes and quickly scanned for Irene and saw her stuck onto the duck like a mouse in a glue trap. She tried desperately to get away, but the more she thrashed, the more she seemed to fuse with the creature. It had her. And I soon realized many people were trapped in a similar fashion. A lot of the floats had managed to crash into the spectators, and they were in a similar predicament as my friend. That's when the alarm sounded again, and everything took a turn for the worse. The floating animals which previously appeared inanimate suddenly seemed to be more conscientious. They were no longer drifting along through the air. With their prey securely stuck on their bodies, they moved with a horrific precision and determination, taking course to where they came from. Accompanied by terrified screaming and the desperate wailing of those left behind, they floated back to their home, somehow squeezing back into the chimney, breaking the bodies and crushing the bones of their captives as they forced them down the small chimney. I could do nothing but pray that she had been dead by then, suffocated by the sticky rubber that she clung to, hopefully. The next few weeks are a blur. I tried to contact Irene, of course. I didn't know any of her family members, and none of our other neighbors were really close to her. Of course, the first thing I did was knock on her door for what must have been hours. Trying to keep my composure, but breaking into tears every now and again, just to reassure myself I was being ridiculous. I left a note on her door. After a few days, I called her job. That was the only information of hers I had, but they hadn't seen her, and the person I talked to told me her boss was quite furious. I thought about calling the police for a welfare check, but I was so scared of what they would find, and it paralyzed me and prevented me from doing anything. It was only when the smell started that I knew I had no choice. I couldn't lie to myself any longer. Irene wasn't on vacation, she hadn't moved out, and she was not simply ignoring me. I was questioned by the police as I had been the one to report her missing and brought up the smell of decay coming from the apartment. I was questioned by the police as I had been the one to report her missing and brought up the smell of decay coming from her apartment, but after the coroner was done, there was no suspicion on me. They told me her death was a natural cause. I don't remember much of what they had told me, but her brain is just somehow shut off. I think they claimed it was an aneurysm. I don't like the Dream Factory anymore. I don't want to return, but there's no way of stopping it. I fear the dreams have increased in frequency too. though there hasn't been a new spectacle from the factory since Irene's death. I don't know what to do. Maybe someone here can help me? I've been falling down a rabbit hole in research sleep-related deaths and unexplainable aneurysms and similar conditions, and if my amateurish research has been accurate, I think cases of people dying in their sleep unexpectedly and mysteriously is increasing. No one in the dream world will talk to me about anything other than pleasantries. I think they are in the same predicament as me. Please, if anyone here has any information, or has been to the same dream world, or maybe recognize anything from my story, please message me or leave a comment. Anything. I don't know if I will be lucky enough the next time. There's a building in my hometown that no one talks about anymore. I think people used to, back when there were still yellowed pamphlets taped to the telephone poles about community restoration or whatever that meant. It was quiet for a while. And then the signs stopped showing up. People forgot. Or maybe they just didn't want to remember. I only ended up back here because my aunt died. She lived alone on the outskirts of the neighborhood, kind of house with a screened-in porch that smells like dust even when it's raining. I came back to pick up her stuff, maybe flip the place or rent it out. But I didn't get that far. Her will was strange. Not dramatic, just off. The language felt wrong. Like it had been written by someone trying to sound formal, but missing the point entirely. The last line was what stuck. Do not go to the library. That's it. No explanation. Just that sentence, sitting alone on the last page, typed clean and sharp, like everything else. But here's the thing. We don't have a library. Not anymore. The building's still here, tucked behind the old city records office, across from what used to be a dentist's office with windows permanently fogged over from the years of neglect. But nobody calls it the library. Nobody calls it anything. Except I did. I called it what it was. I called it what I remembered. Should have left it alone. But if you grew up where I did, you probably remember the old card catalog. Not digital, not even electric. Real wood, metal handles, rows of tiny drawers labeled in that fading plastic sticker tape. You'd open one and hear the squeak of swollen wood rubbing against more swollen wood. The card smelled like glue and mold. If you stayed still long enough, you'd start to think the drawers were breathing. That's the memory that came back when I walked past the building for the first time in years. The sidewalk was cracked. Some of the bricks from the library wall had fallen and were never picked up. The front doors were chained shut. But I noticed something weird. The chains were new. Clean, tight, bolted into the frame like whoever put them there wasn't trying to keep people out. They were keeping something in. I circled around the back and found the basement entrance. I used to sneak in there as a kid with a flashlight and a bottle of soda I wasn't supposed to have. The lock was gone. Not broken, just gone. Like someone had taken it off neatly and left no trace. It smelled the same. Old paper, wet stone, something else underneath. Something I didn't remember but recognized anyway. A kind of metallic rot, like rust if rust had a temperature. I only took 3 steps in before I found it. The card catalog. It shouldn't have been there. The basement wasn't where they kept it. That thing used to sit proudly near the front, right past the information desk. But here it was, shoved into the center of the concrete floor like it had been dragged there and left in a hurry. I don't know what possessed me to open a drawer. Maybe it was the smell, or the silence, or the way my aunt's last words kept humming in the back of my head like static. I pulled open the second drawer from the top. There was only 1 card inside. It had my name on it. Not just my name, my address, my date of birth, the name of my ex, who moved away last spring, my blood type. I didn't even know my blood type. But it was there, typed in red. All of it. I flipped the card over, and there were words written in a shaky, angular hand. Not typed, not neat, like it had been scribbled in the dark. You shouldn't be here. I dropped the card and slammed the drawer shut. That should have been it. That should have been enough. I should have turned around and left that place behind me, gone home, booked a flight, burned the house down if I had to. But I didn't. Because right as I turned to leave, I heard it. A drawer opening. Not behind me, not in front of me. All around me. I don't know how to explain it. The catalog drawers, they weren't just drawers anymore. They were mouths. Hollow little mouths yawning open one by one in slow succession, metal clacking, wood creaking. It was like a song played in a language I wasn't supposed to understand. And they weren't empty. No. Every drawer had a card. Every card had a name. And I recognized every single one of them. People I knew, people I'd forgotten, people I hadn't met yet. And the worst part, some of the cards were blank. Just waiting. The drawer behind me slammed shut. I didn't even look, I just ran. I tripped on the stairs, skinned my hands and knees on the way up. Didn't feel it until hours later. When I got outside, the air felt wrong. Heavier, somehow. Like the pressure had changed while I was in there. Like something else had come out with me. I haven't been back since. Not inside. But sometimes, at night, when I'm trying to sleep, I hear drawers opening. Just one at first, then another, and another, until it's all I can hear. That soft, sliding wood, that cold click of metal. That breathing. I think it's reading me. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the drawers opening, heard the soft sliding of wood, the click of metal handles. The image of my name, typed in red, burned into my mind. The next morning, I tried to convince myself it was a dream. A hallucination brought on by stress and grief. But the scrape on my knee, the splinters in my palm, told a different story. I needed answers. I returned to the library, this time in daylight. The building looked even more decrepit under the sun. The chains on the front door still gleamed, too new for a place forgotten. I circled to the back, found the basement door ajar. The air inside was stale, thick with the scent of mildew and something else. Something metallic. The card catalog stood where I'd left it, drawers closed. I approached cautiously, half expecting them to spring open. They didn't. I opened the drawer with my name. The card was gone. In its place was a new card, blank except for a single line. Reading room. I remembered the reading room from my childhood. A spacious area on the main floor, filled with long tables and tall windows. But the main floor had been inaccessible, the front doors chained. I searched the basement, found a narrow staircase leading up. The door at the top was unlocked. The reading room was bathed in a sickly yellow light filtering through grime-covered windows. Dust motes danced in the air. The tables were gone, replaced by rows of chains facing a blank wall. On each chair sat a person, motionless, eyes closed, breathing shallow. I recognized some of them. Neighbors, teachers, people I'd known. All seated, as if waiting for something. A low hum filled the room, growing louder. The wall flickered, revealing a projection, a grainy video of the card catalog, drawers opening and closing. The people in the chairs began to speak in unison, reciting names, dates, events. Their voices overlapped, creating a cacophony of memories not their own. I backed away, heart pounding, and fled down the stairs out of the library into the daylight. The whispers followed me home. The house felt wrong when I got back. I kept the lights off, like maybe it would make me less noticeable. Like if I didn't move too much, whatever followed me wouldn't see me. But the whispers didn't care about the dark. They moved through the walls, the floor, the vents. They filled the cracks in the wood and the gaps around the windows. At first, it was little things. I'd hear my name in the background of songs on the radio, see flickers of myself standing in reflections that didn't match my movements. Then the television turned itself on. Static. Thick, heavy static that crackled and buzzed, louder than it should have been. The screen showed nothing but white noise. But if I stared long enough, I could almost make out moving shapes behind it. It got worse after midnight. The static started to bleed out of the TV, dripping into the air, weighing down the room like fog. I couldn't breathe right. I couldn't think straight. I smashed the TV with a hammer from the garage. The glass shattered in a spray of dust and black. For a second, the room was quiet. And then the phone rang. I didn't want to answer it. I let it ring until the machine picked up. But when the message played, it wasn't my voice. It was me. But not. The recording said, "You have been selected for documentation. Your story is incomplete." Click. The dial tone screamed in the empty house. I tried to leave. Keys, wallet, shoes, out the door. I didn't even grab a jacket. The world outside wasn't right either. The sky was that same static gray as the broken TV. The streets were empty, but I could see figures standing in the distance, motionless, facing my house. Rows of them. Hundreds. Maybe more. All standing like the people in the reading room. Breathing shallow, eyes closed, waiting. I backed into the house and locked the door, like it would help. The only thing I could think to do was go back to the library. Maybe if I gave them what they wanted, they'd stop. Or maybe it was already too late. I grabbed a flashlight and went back into the basement. The door closed behind me without anyone touching it. The drive back to the library barely felt real. I don't even remember the stoplights or the turns. It was like I blinked and I was there. The building looked worse than before. The front windows were dark, smeared over with something like ash or dirt. Half the sign had fallen down. The front door hung open a few inches, just enough to feel like it was waiting for me. I parked on the curb and left the car running. I don't know why. Maybe some part of me thought I could outrun whatever this was. The second I stepped inside, the air changed. It was thick and heavy, like stepping underwater. The smell was worse now, too. Sharp and sour, like paper left to rot. The lights buzzed overhead, flickering. Rows and rows of books stretched into the dark. Way more than I remembered. Way more than should have fit inside the building. And the shelves, they moved. They didn't walk or shake or sway. They breathed. Slow, rising and falling motions, like lungs struggling to pull in air. I kept moving, flashlight sweeping side to side. Every time the light landed on a shelf, it stilled. Back out of the corner of my eye, I saw them moving, contracting, expanding. The reading room was up ahead, down a long aisle that hadn't been there before. It was darker there, darker than it should have been. And I could hear something. Pages turning, dozens of them, hundreds. The sound layered over itself, louder and louder, until it was deafening. I covered my ears and fumbled forward. I covered my ears and stumbled forward. When I finally broke through the last aisle, the reading room opened up around me like a throat swallowing me whole. The chairs were still there, the tables too. But now every seat was filled. People hunched over books, flipping pages faster than should have been possible, their hands a blur, their faces blank. The librarian was there too, or what was left of her. Her figure was half melted into the desk, like wax held too close to a flame. Her mouth stretched open in a scream that never ended. But the worst part were the books. Each one had a name stamped on the cover in heavy black ink. Names I recognized. My parents, my sister, my old classmates. And there, at the very front, a book with my name on it. Still blank, still waiting. I didn't want to touch it. Every part of me screamed to run. But my hand moved on its own. I reached out and opened it. And the world broke apart. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. A quick shout out to my patrons, Old Penguin, Rinku Star, Melissa Perez, Icy Narrates, Seven Cities Journalist, Cupcake Hips, Eric Cifuentes, Alonso, Austin My Love, Ellie Hutmeyer, Jesse Hartley, Lawrence Wallen, Mr. Sankofa, and William Hartley. I always try to link a different charity in the description, so go ahead and check that out. I'm also going to start having more things on my Patreon soon, so keep your eyes peeled. And as always, I'd love to know how I can be praying for you, so go ahead and drop a comment and let me know how I can do that. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you in the next video.